Greetings everyone. Today we are going to review the substitution and elimination methods for solving systems, and we are also going to work on our review mazes. So please make sure you have your notes and the mazes in front of you as we get going. All right, let's begin by reviewing the steps for substitution. To do this, please pause the video and open your notes to the substitution steps we already wrote down. Now, please note that the steps I'm going to review might not look the same as yours, and that's okay. We kind of came up with them and made up our own. But in general, the steps should be the same. So the first thing we need to do is we need to isolate a variable. Now, sometimes one is already isolated. Sometimes you have to choose the best variable to isolate. Step 2, you're going to substitute. Here's where this main step comes in. You're going to substitute that expression that you got from step 1 into, and I'm going to write this in bold, the other equation, right? So we're going to take the expression. So for example, let's say on step 1 I solved for y and I got a 2x minus 5. This is an expression. We're going to substitute that expression into the other equation. Now it has to be the other equation because it's like Christmas lights. You're not going to plug lights into themselves. That's not going to turn them on. You got to plug it into something else, right? All right, so once you've substituted it in, then you want to solve. You're going to have an equation. Solve for the variable. So if you have two x's, you're going to break it down until you got x equals something, okay? What this is going to do is prepare your point. Once you have one letter, you're going to substitute, again, that value from the previous step into any equation and solve. So what that means is if I know x is 7, all right, so take that 7, plug it in somewhere, and find your y value because you need an x and a y value. So let's review substitution on our maze. So please make sure you have the correct title matching. Please note which box we're going to work on. And we do not have enough space here, so we are doing work on our own paper. So please pause until you have this sheet and a blank sheet of paper in front of you, or if you already did this, make sure you have that work in front of you. All right, now you should have those papers in front of you. Because this problem is sort of halfway through our work, my numbering is going to be off, but I'm going to number it number 1 on the maze sheet, and then on my work page, I'm going to name it number 1. And also, as always, make sure you got your name on there. Okay, so I'm going to copy this problem over to my paper. So my number 1 problem says x plus 2y equals 8, and x plus 3y equals 12. So step 1, isolate a variable. You pick, there's xy or xy. I'm looking at the first equation because it's first, and I'm going to solve for x because it's really quick. If I want to get x by itself, all I have to do is minus that 2y to the other side, and I have x equals 8 minus 2y. That is my expression. Next step, substitute that expression into the other equation. I already used this one with the 8, so I have to use the one that has the 12. And so how that's going to look is where there's an x, I'm going to put a blank or a box or a parenthesis, whatever visual aid you need, and then I'm going to carry everything else down. Plus 3y, equals 12. See how it looks the same? But instead of x, I'm going to replace it, substitute it with my expression. That is the big new step. But what we just did is create an equation that we can solve. All right, I'm going to get rid of that box because there's nothing to distribute. Sometimes there is, so be careful. First step, I'm going to combine like terms. That gets me a positive 1y. I'm going to zoom through these steps because these solving steps go back to day 2 of our math class this year. So you can go all the way back to the beginning of your notebook if you need help. We have a y value of 4. So I'm going to go back up to my number. My y value is 4. The last step, if I know y, I need to find x. So I need to take this 4 and I need to plug it into any equation from this problem. So I don't know, I'm going to pick the first one because it's first and the numbers are smaller. Literally the only reason. So if I rewrite that problem, it said x plus 2y equals 8. But instead of y, I'm going to write, I'm going to write a 4 because that's what y is. Y is 4. And now I can solve. 2 times 4 is 8. Let's solve this equation. Minus the 8, x equals 0. X is 0. That means I'm going this direction. So circle or highlight or color that solution. Now you know the direction of your next problem. All right, let's review elimination, okay? Now, again, take a moment, pause this video, open your notes to your elimination steps. All right, your steps are likely not the same as mine, but the general gist should be the same. Again, if you need further help on these topics, this is a review video. You need to go back to the original full instructional video. So step 1 here, we need to line up. That's all I'm going to say. Line up the equations. Wow, that's really bad writing. Let me try that again. We are going to line up equations. What that means is the x's are above the x's, the y's are above the y's, equals, solutions, etc. Step 2, you're going to choose a variable to eliminate. There's some strategy here and there's some work here, right? You may eliminate, sorry, let me finish spelling that. You may have to multiply. Okay, we'll talk about that. Like what kind of things eliminate? A 4 and a negative 4, right? 4 plus negative 4 is 0. That would eliminate. Step 3, this is a MortVet thing, so if you're not my student, it might not make sense, but I call it old school addition. We're going back to the way your parents learned to add, right? I line up my numbers and I put a big old plus sign and I add my like columns. Step 4, you're going to solve. You're going to be left with an equation. Solve the equation. It might involve 1 step, 2 steps, but likely only 1. Solve the equation, no S needed, my bad. So step 5, the last one, you're going to have a letter. So let's say you have x equals 9. Perfect. Substitute value into any equation. Does this sound familiar? And solve for other variable. Right? This looks just like substitution. Once you know one letter, every problem is the same. If you know one of the 2 values, then it's the same. So really the only thing that's kind of new is the first 3 steps. All right, so next thing you can see here, we need our elimination maze. Please make note of the title here. We are talking about the side that says advanced elimination. Your directions in class might have told you which one to use or solve for, but I'm going to do the example from this side. So have that paper ready, and we're going to concentrate on the bottom left corner, and just like the other maze, you also need a blank sheet of paper. So please pause and get ready. All right, now you have your supplies ready here. To begin, please make sure you have your name on your blank sheet of paper. I'm going to number this bottom left problem as number 1. And I'm going to just copy it over to my paper because then I don't need the maze for a little bit. Step 1, line up. Everything's lined up. See how the X's are lined up? Let me highlight for you. The X's are lined up. The Y's are lined up. The equals need to be lined up. And the solutions need to be lined up. Because they're lined up, we can move to step 2. Step 2, choose a variable to eliminate. Well, let's see. If I look at the x's, a 2 and a 3, well, none of those sort of easily eliminate, right? And then if I look at the y's, a 4 and a 5, nothing cancels out. So I have to do a little bit of work. So I'm going to choose the x's because they're smaller, all right? And here is our goal. First of all, to eliminate, they need to be opposite signs. So I'm going to take that first equation, the whole thing, and I got to times it by a negative. Okay? That'll take care of the signs, but they also need to be the same numbers. And so I'm going to multiply the top equation by the x coefficient on the other equation, and I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by the x coefficient on the other equation. See how I chose the opposites? That is important, and you could technically do that every single problem. That is a step that would work every time. So now I'm going to distribute this through, okay? -3 distributed into everything would create a -6x, a -12y, and a +12. Yes, even the solution gets distribution. Let's look at the second equation. 2 times 3, 2 times 5, 2 times -3. All right, they're still lined up, but look at those x's. Our next step, I call it old school addition. -6x plus 6x cancels. Perfect. That has to happen. If that doesn't happen, something's already wrong. Let's look at the y values. -12 plus 10 is -2y. Equals falls down. 12 plus -6 is +6. What we've done is created a little mini equation we can solve. Instead of times -2, let's divide by -2, and I get a y value of -3. So let me prep my answer up here. Oops, I'm going to use black instead. That means I know my y value is -3, which means I need to find my x value. Let's go back to the original question and choose one of them. There's no strategy here. So let's say I rewrite the first equation. I'm going to substitute my y value in for y. So instead of y, I'm going to write -3. Everything else falls down. Let's solve our equation. 4 times -3 is -12. Everything else falls down. I'm going to zoom through these steps because this is solving equations. If you need help with that, we've probably already had the conversation. So x equals 4. I need to go write 4 in for x. My solution is 4, -3. So please go circle color or highlight that solution. So again, as I mentioned before, see the previous instructional videos if you are struggling more with this. Okay? The reason why is this was a review. This was quick. Previous instructional videos will go through the steps slower and have more examples. Okay? As always, make sure to check out Google Classroom to see what the task is. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, it is the mazes. So make sure you get those finished and turn in as needed. Let me know if you have any questions, and until next time, have a good one.